Good evening, Titans. This is Mr. Simpson, and welcome back to second semester. We're going to get started here with Chapter 6, Lesson 6.1, and discuss zero and negative exponents in this first video. So first of all, zero exponents. The definition in words says for any non-zero number a to the 0, so right here, a to the 0 is equal to 1. Now, the only thing that isn't true is if you have 0 raised to the 0 power, then that's called undefined. And we can show you that later why that is. So in numbers, you have 4 to the 0, that's equal to 1. Algebra, a to the 0, that's also equal to 1. We'll talk about some things here, so a couple of examples. Anything to the 0 power, so negative 3 in the parentheses to the 0 power right here. So negative 3 is inside the parentheses, raised to the 0 power. That would be a positive 1. Here, 7 to the 0 is a positive 1. Now this is the tricky one, because the negative is not in parentheses. So based on order of operations, we must do the power first. So 4 to the 0 is equal to 1. And then the opposite of that would equal a negative 1. So notice the difference between number 3 and number 1 there. Here, the negative was in the parentheses raised to the 0 power is 1. Here, the negative is not in the parentheses, so my final answer ends up being a negative 1. Okay? So now, negative exponents. It says for any integer n and a non-zero number a to the negative nth is the reciprocal of a to the n. So in numbers, what that means is if I have 4 to the negative second, I can't evaluate a negative exponent. So I'm first going to make it a positive exponent. So to do that, I do the reciprocal. So that's 1 over 4 to the second. Then I can evaluate that to be 1 over 16. So anytime we have a negative exponent, and that is above the fraction bar, I must move it to below the fraction bar to change the sign of the exponent to a positive. And so, for example here, 3 to the negative fifth. Well, we're first going to have to move it, since this is above the fraction bar, move that below the fraction bar to change the sign to a positive exponent. And then, since there's nothing left in the numerator, we put a 1 there. And now we evaluate, which would be 1 over, and 3 to the fifth would be 243. Notice, a negative exponent does not mean that my answer is negative at all. Here, the negative is in the parentheses. So this negative is going to move with this power. So the negative 5 has to move to the denominator, make that a positive exponent now. And again, I put a 1 up in the numerator. And now I have 1 over. And now a negative fifth to the third power, well, negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5 would be a negative 125. Then we typically don't leave the negative in the denominator, so I just rewrite this as negative 1 over 125. And there's my final answer. And now this last one, number 6. Here, the negative is not part of the power. So I just know that my full answer will be negative because of that. But this part here, the 2 to the negative third, is below the fraction bar. So I must move it above the fraction bar to make that 2 to the positive third power. I can put a 1 in the denominator. Now that negative is still just a negative. 2 to the third is 8. And 8. So that would be a negative 8. A negative 8. All right? So we'll talk more about how do we create zero exponents, how do we create negative exponents, but right now we're only worried about evaluating zero exponents and negative exponents. So here, a little bit more evaluating exponential expressions with both now, zero and negative exponents. So in this problem here, anything, I always want to get rid of the zero exponents first, so anything to the 0 power, that's just 1. And then 3 to the negative second, I have to move down below to make it 3 to the positive second. So that's 1 times 3 to the second. Again, put a 1 up top. That's 1 over 3 to the second is 9. So my answer is 1/9. Here again, I have anything 0 power is 1, but this negative is not part of that. So this is going to end up staying negative 1 there. This must move to the denominator to make that 6 to the first. So again, I put a 1 up in the numerator. So 6 to the first is 6. I don't want the negative in my denominator, so I'm going to move it to the numerator. And that's just a negative 1, 6. And then the last one here, I have this negative exponent is in the denominator, so I have to move it to the numerator, make that 3 to the positive third. This has to move to the denominator, make that 2 to the positive fourth. And the negative just stays on top. So 3 to the third is 27, so that's going to be a negative 27. And then 2 to the fourth is 16. So my answer is a negative 27 over 16. All right?